Published nearly 300 letters that were written by young soldiers to their family and friends at home. And so this gave not only their families but the community a sense of kind of what was going on in their lives. So we thought this would be a great program. It would be very poignant, sad, happy, funny, and very local for our very last program. So we're really excited. Well, we felt like maybe we weren't quite capable of doing this by ourselves, so we enlisted Roger Doerr, he's the shy one out here, who is a retired faculty member from Hastings College, but we know him better as a very integral part of the Hastings Community Theater. So this is why we enlisted his help. So his idea, we wanted a reader's theater production, so his idea was, why don't we go to the age group, pretty much, of these kids who would have been writing these letters. So he drafted these young high school students, and they would have been very close to the kids who were writing the letters. So we're very excited to let you see all of this. And please stay around because we have a couple other surprises for you and some information about what's going to be going on when the real Chautauqua begins. Okay, so thank you all for coming.
Good evening. Yes, my name is Roger Doerr, and we are thrilled to have an audience of this number for this particularly important evening. 1,046. 1,046. That is the number of young men from Adams County who served in that forgotten war known as World War I. That shows, I think, very easily and dramatically what an impact that particular war had on this part of the country. I want to acknowledge the incredible job that Cheryl Lockwood did with this particular production. She has spent literally months researching, verifying, putting together the letters, editing them down to a manageable size, and being a wonderful consultant to me as we put the final organizational touches on it. Just a great, great job. Cheryl, no one else could have done it like you. I really mean that. Okay, it's my pleasure to introduce the young men who will be reading these letters for you this evening. One individual is going to be constant throughout the presentation. His name was Albert Baugh, and Albert was in the field artillery. Each of our 4 sections tonight will be led off by a letter written by Albert Baugh. Keep in mind that he was not in the trenches, but his perspective would have been behind the trenches as he was involved with the artillery barrages that helped protect the folks that were in the trenches. Playing that particular, or reading that particular series of letters, is going to be Alex Kleinjan. Alex? Yeah, stand. He won't be reading as many letters as our other folks, but having that constant character we thought was really significant because his letters went from the very beginning in 1916 through the armistice through 1919. Okay, let me tell you a little bit about Alex. He's a senior at Hastings Senior High, plans to attend Grinnell College in Iowa, and has a pre-law major in mind. He's been active in cross country, speech and debates. He's an Eagle Scout. He was all-state in speech, plays the cello in the orchestra, the trombone in band, and his parents are Tom and Stacy Kleinjan. Alex Kemnitz. Alex is also a senior, graduating this week from Hastings High. He's going to be attending Central Community College here in Hastings, studying the Advanced Manufacturing Process and Design Technology. He's active in band, where he's the section leader, the low brass. Very active in Skills USA, his specialty being technical drafting. At the Skills USA, he was elected at a state level as the officer holding the title of parliamentarian. He's active in speech, Quiz Bowl, and his Quiz Bowl team this spring took third in the state of Nebraska. Quite a nice accomplishment. His parents are Chris and Morrison. There is a misspelling in the program that I take total responsibility for, and my apologies to Kai Anderson. It's not Ty, it's Kai with a K. Kai is our sophomore at Hastings Senior High. He's active in speech, band, choir, art club, Animac club, did Quiz Bowl, drama club, and his parents are Anche and Bruce Anderson. And this must be just sort of a military experience. Our fourth reader is not here, so we're going to have to say he's AWOL. He was here at rehearsal last night. We know he knows the place. We know he knows the time. He's dependent on his mother for transportation, and that's the one thing that's got me worried at this point. So if he arrives and when he arrives, we'll bring Joey Miller up on stage and we can take that share. Until then, I will take the part of reading the letters that were otherwise signed to Joey. All right, to start off, we have a 4-section presentation for you. The first part is called Getting Ready. There's a lot of optimism, a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of questioning about what this war experience is going to be all about. Many of these young people had never been outside the Midwest, probably, never been outside the state of Nebraska or this region. So there's a certain amount of excitement that really permeates these letters as well as sort of the questioning. But the energy level is there. And I think one of the interesting ways that we can start this off for you is a letter that was actually printed in the Tribune, a letter to the editor, in this case, from Dr. Eugene Foote. That's a name that, of course, we all recognize. The legacy that family has had with our community originates with Dr. Foote. And this is what he wrote to the Tribune on April 5. Dear friends, on the eve of my departure for active duty, I wish to say to the good people of Hastings and western Nebraska that I appreciate more than I can find words to express the very generous and considerate treatment accorded myself and family during our nearly 10 years of residence among you. The thought of going away and leaving loved ones is more tolerable by knowing they are left behind amid such a splendid patriotic citizenship and surrounded by the best neighbors one ever had. If I am spared the fortunes of war, I hope to return and again take up residence and work among you. Wherever I go, I shall not forget that I am from Hastings, Nebraska, and it shall be my constant aim and highest endeavor to render such service in this terrible emergency as shall warrant the approbation of my friends and fellow citizens. Sincerely, Dr. Eugene Foote. The syntax that you're going to hear in these letters dates back 100 years. The wording, the way words are put together, is going to sound a little bit foreign to our ears. Our readers are going to try their best to stay constant with that syntax, although it's a very difficult challenge. It's a little bit like reading Shakespeare. I think you'll find that these young men, during this period, wrote just extremely well. They were educated to write, they practiced writing, and in these letters, some of them are almost poetic. Some of these guys were really, really able to use words effectively. So, I think we've set the stage. And we're ready for Corporal Albert Baugh to get us started. Corporal.
Dear Aunt Amy, I know you worried when I quit college last spring to volunteer my services to Uncle Sam. But artillery training here in Texas is going fine, and the prospects are good. The only trouble is that about half of New Mexico and Arizona have been blown over here in the last week. And dirt and sand is something fierce. There's sand in our eyes when we drill, in our mouths when we eat, and in our beds when we sleep. My section handles the light mountain guns, and that is where I put in my hard work. Yesterday, I got along so well at my post on the night drill, I was stationed at the gunner's position, and it was really fun, and all I had to do was mind my business and do what I was told. Afterward, the corporal said, "Bob, you did pretty well at that. Ever had any of it before?" Well, right away, my hat got about 3 sizes too small. The camp is provided with every convenience for us possible. We have shower baths, ball games, a canteen, and the YMCA puts on a first-class moving picture show for an hour and a half every night. Most of the fellows who can go there. Last night we went over to see the other Adams County bunch, and they have a fine place all fixed up. Vern Manahan was sure glad to see me, but he howled when he found out that we had butter, and they did not. The boys all look fine, and are in good spirits, of course. They realize that it is a serious business, but there was a lot of fun and noise going on. Yesterday we got shot and examined. I passed perfect here, and the doctor said the Nebraska men sure were the best bunch yet. There sure are some huskies here. I guess it takes brawn for loading cannonballs. This morning all you could hear was, "Hey, how's your arm?" "Ah, shut up, you fool. I guess a bumblebee backed up to me and pushed." I've had a little fever and felt rather weak, but I haven't had time to stop. But tonight they are mostly over the typhoid shot and waiting for the smallpox inoculation next week. Well, gotta go. I can't hear a thing. There's a piano here and they are pounding the life out of it. Love from your nephew, Albert Baugh, Corporal, Battery B, 15th Field, Artillery, Pine Camp.
Dear folks, we've had a pretty exciting time since last night. I had just crawled into bed when we heard an awful noise, like rolling thunder. It was horses from 4 batteries on a stampede. Just imagine, 600 horses, pitch dark, and every one of them scared into a wild frenzy. They broke through the corrals and stampeded right through the camp, just like wild animals from the African jungle. They tore down water troughs and fences, ran into a cook shack with tables and made it look like a kindling pile. Any man who was in their path was done for. It was something I won't forget soon. They've been making us labor to beat the band lately. We have a general inspection tomorrow. I'll tell you, when a fellow gets his saddlebags, blanket rolls, slicker, etc., and starts carrying it out to the stable, he appreciates the fact that he is in the mounted service instead of the infantry. I had a picture taken full pack the other day, and will send you one when it is finished. It was the first time my horse was ever loaded up in that manner, and he thought himself abused. However, he behaved fine. He sure is a good little horse, and gets onto this army life as quickly as any of the recruits do. In our regiment are 2 sons of Farmer Burns. They give wrestling exhibitions, and the money that the crowd throws to the athletes is added to the mess fund. There are also a number of Indians with the 6th, and the Wren men give war dances, which brings more money for the mess fund. I'm sure interested in all the college and high school football games, so send me the Tribune clippings about them. I got your cookies, and say that they were good. Anything like that doesn't last long here. I got them Saturday noon, they were all gone by night. Well, I must close. I'll write more Sunday. With love. Ward Martin.
Dear cousins Hazel and Clarence, a letter like yours once in a while sure helps. I think often of those good old football days myself, especially when out on the guns. It's just like a football game in nearly every respect. Every man has his job to do, and he has to do it. If he doesn't, well, it's like forgetting your signals. Instead of hearing this, 28, 32, 76, hike! It's more like this. Left from basic, 26 close, 2 sight, 10 correction, 29 battery right. The gunner yells, ready! And all is set. Down comes the captain's hand, and there's a great crash. I tell you, there is nothing like it in the world. Each afternoon after recall, the band gives us a concert. They play for half an hour or so, and during the whole time, one can see every window and door full of the fellows enjoying the music. The footballs are brought out, and all along the street, one can see them hopping up and down, just like they used to back in Hastings before practice. There are a few good kickers out here, but many more poor ones. I'm able to beat most of them and have a reputation for my wonderful punting. Ha ha! And to think, you have the nerve to tell me I kick like an old woman, Clarence. Don't you feel like saying it now? The fellows are feeling musical tonight, to the extent of Home Sweet Home and Dixie. So I won't try to write more. With love from your cousin, Albert.
My dear mother, this is my first letter under the censor, and I've had no instructions as to what I may write, so we'll just have to be guided by my own judgment. Our stay at Camp Mills awakened in me more emotion than I have ever felt before. In a tent city, the sound of voices is always muffled, and all about us there was laughter and conversation. Before it grew dark, there was usually the regular thud of a baseball as a couple of boys played catch. Even through the hush, which always comes with failing light, would come the startling roar of an aeroplane starting up for a flight in twilight. Then the clear note of a bugle would ring out over the camp, to be taken up by another more distant, till finally it would die out entirely. Then darkness would settle down over all, and all that disturbed the silence would be the hum of someone playing as the aviator was out for a flight at night, and the heavy throbbing of a laboring motor truck, and a distant quartet harmonizing to In the Evening by the Moonlight, or Good Night, Ladies. Then would come the soldiers, God bless you, as each bugler passed taps down the line, and the uncertain light of many candles would go out, and darkness and silence would settle over all. Those nights were beautiful, and I was never tired of listening to the confusion of sounds. I got the best little thrill I've had in many a day this morning. I happened to be down on the main street of the camp, when down the road came a long line of soldiers in heavy marching order. They were strapping big fellows, tanned and weathered. They marched at attention, with their packs on their backs and their rifles on their shoulders, and with the easy swinging cadence of well-trained soldiers. They were headed by their big military band of 30 or 40 pieces, and the band was playing, Over there, send the word over there, that the Yanks are coming. And there they were, the Yanks. And they were actually on their way. You cannot imagine how much meaning there is to that old song, till you have heard it under some such circumstances. And it was wonderful. And I think I'll never hear it again that I do not think of those fellows going out. Now, with love for all, your son, Lawrence K. Van Sippen.
Dearest mother and sister, there's a farewell at the YMCA tonight for the boys going over, but I didn't feel like I wanted to see it, so I didn't go. I thinned out my belongings today in preparation for our expected trip, so I had a bonfire in the stove. We have drawn our gas masks and are taking instructions on how to use them. According to what returning French soldiers tell us, there's absolutely no danger from a gas if a soldier knows how to use his mask correctly and does so. This will probably be my last letter to you from this side, as we are due out tomorrow night. It does not necessarily mean that we set sail immediately. The usual procedure is to lay in the stream until about Monday, so that the rest of the convoy may assemble for the trip across. Right often, I haven't heard from home for 2 weeks. Elder.
Deming, New Mexico, September 19th, 1917. Dear folks, believe me, they have to do it to Hastings for being patriotic. When we got on the train, the Lincoln and Omaha boys said, "You sure got some send-off." They said all they heard when they left home was the squeak of wheels. So I think Omaha and Lincoln had better wake up. We sure had a good time all the way to Logan. We never felt a bit. It sure did rain along about the cook. Some of the old guys began to get sleepy, and we would take off in the rain and get some wet weeds, and oh, they sure were cold. We would shake them in the old guys' faces, and believe me, they would wake right up. The Hastings boys began their first day in Camp Cody as real soldiers this morning. And promptly at 5:30 a.m. and at the sound of reveille, dreams of bygone days back home were broken, and the company got out the line for roll call. We Company G boys witnessed a sight the other day which made us all realize the more serious side of this. Large dummies were suspended by ropes and used for bayonet practice. Rows of these weird-looking objects sent chills up the back of many of us, but as true soldiers, nobody had been there. "That's what we do to the Germans," one of the boys remarked as the instructor jabbed the sawdust man with his bayonet, giving the pointed twist as he pulled it up. "Right off it. Your son, Adam."
Okay, so that concludes scene one. And you can see there's that little bit of excitement, a little bit of anticipation. In scene two, we labeled it The Soldier's Life, Waiting, how they build up the time. And there's also just a little bit of the introduction to the battle, which most of them will be experiencing when we get to scene three. So scene two, The Soldier's Life.
England. Dearest folks at home, we stopped in Southampton on our way to France. We stayed in tents in a fine, big park with other troops waiting for embarkation. There's every kind of soldier imaginable here. Scottish kilties, Canadians, U.S. troops of all branches, and a great many British troops. No two uniforms are similar, so you can imagine the variety. Most of the British troops have the name of their regiment on their shoulder straps, such as Yorkshire, RFC, or Lancashire. We're all Sammies to them. It's a little hard to understand them at first, on account of their pronunciation, but we get along fine. They are all either quite young or very old, with just a few our average age. Did you have a good Christmas? I spent the day on a steamship on my way here. For breakfast, I had corned beef, spuds, and coffee. And for Christmas dinner, spuds, corned beef, and bread. And for supper, bread, corned beef, and cheese. So, you see, I missed my good Christmas dinner. Now, across the channel in our new camp, the chow will be good. And that's the main thing. I can sleep almost anywhere. At least, I have been lately. But I like to fill up once in a while. We get our Christmas dinner tomorrow for New Year's Eve. Luther Stein is here too. He is sitting by my side now, writing to his folks. We have lots of enjoyment talking over Hastings, news, and college gossip when we do get together. Tell everybody hello for me, and that I'm all in one piece yet. If my many friends there only knew how much a Hastings boy would appreciate a letter all the way over on this side of the world, they would certainly all write to me, at least a time or two. With lots of love for all, Elbert.
On the briny deep, dear Mama, all night and this morning, the third day out, we're getting a taste of some rough sea. I'm getting a little acquainted with some of these English sailors, and I'm also learning the difference between the booby hatch and the crow's nest. There's a standing reward of 24 pounds to the first man who sights a periscope. Corporal Troy Shigley of Innervale is the most active man so far for this reward. Nothing yet. Conditions on this transport are not all that could be desired. I have my feet wrapped around among the ropes to keep my balance. One fellow's case of seasickness struck me as particularly funny. He was standing quite apart from the crowd on deck with the most absent-minded expression I ever saw. Absolutely nobody home. Head and shoulders drooping, mouth open, quite suddenly and with no apparent effort, with no change in expression, he began to erupt. There was no sign on his face of pain, no fear, no shame, no surprise, no tightening of the muscles, no nothing. You can't imagine how funny it was. Many of the soldiers we were transporting were sick. One soldier boy died, and we buried him at sea. It seemed pretty tough to see him dumped over the side. 4 of us band boys played We Kindly Light.
Dear Joe, sorry I didn't answer your letter right away, but I was busy as the proverbial one-armed paper hanging with the hives, and believe me, that is some activity. So I stress. We left Hoboken, New Jersey on May 25th. There's a mass of people there, all waving hats and handkerchiefs. We yelled until we were hoarse. I've received several letters from you, and you can wait till they receive a great welcome. The Tribune keeps us posted on Hastings News. We got about a dozen yesterday, so we spent the evening reading them. I haven't told you much about our trip across. Our ship was one of the German intern ships, renamed the George Washington. The weather was made to order. The big sea had hardly rippled with the exception of the next to last day, and then it was a little rough. The time passed very well. Each afternoon we had a boxing match or two and a wrestling match, and in the evening a concert or entertainment. So you can see we had plenty to amuse us. Since the accident of the Tuscania is known the world's over, I suppose I am not breaking any censorship restrictions by stating that I witnessed the occurrence. The Tuscania was a very short distance to the rear of us when the torpedo found its mark. In fact, from the circumstances known to us, the torpedo which did the damage was meant for our boat, but we zigzagged out of its course, while the Tuscania coming behind us was unfortunate enough to run into the thing, and then things began to happen. Our boat did not stop, nor even hesitate, as there is sufficient assistance at hand to take care of the Tuscania, so we made our getaway. But I sit out on deck and watch the Tuscania until we draw out of sight, and let me tell you, it was a sight I should never forget. We felt very much like congratulating our good luck, and at the same time we knew that our good fortune was somebody else's misfortune, and we were mighty sorry for the men aboard the Tuscania. Luckily, the sea was very smooth. There would have been a much heavier loss of life. Your friend, Adam.
Dearest Mother, the Rainbow Division has arrived in England. Now as we are getting closer to the war, we can't help but realize the bigness of it. I've talked to a number of English soldiers back from the war, and have a pretty good idea of just how things are there. I've seen all kinds of soldiers since coming here, from all countries, even black Indian troops and Scotch soldiers with their queer-looking kilts. I sure don't envy them any in this weather. The truth of Dickens' descriptions of England comes to me almost hourly. Dwellings damp and dark, alehouses every place, though soldiers are ruled out. But the country is beautiful. The easy hills, the green pastures, the scattered herds, the still little lakes, and the trees make for wonderful scenery. As this is the first liberty we've had for some time, I'm going to try to enjoy myself. Of course, this is a bad time to see this country, but considering what they've gone through, the people certainly bear up fine. The towns here are all kept dark at night, and it sure is hard to find your way about as there are lots of people in the streets. Got the account today of the air raid on London last night. The people here are quite used to them and don't pay much attention to them anymore. What war news we get seems most favorable. The English people I've talked with are optimistic and have supreme confidence in our troops. They are prone to give the Yanks all the credit for recent advances. We came here by way of London. From what I've seen of it, I doubt I would trade a square block of Hastings, Nebraska for the whole city. Next Saturday reminds me that I'm another year older. Sure wish I could be back there to celebrate the occasion. I've thought lots of you lately. I wondered how you are. Love to all, and right off. Affectionately, Paul Hansen.
Well, here I am in France. I expect you were glad to get the card telling of my safe arrival, weren't you? We arrived in France about sundown, and were all happy to get our feet on the ground. The first thing we noticed was the women and girls waving their handkerchiefs at us. All were dressed in black mourning, as France is almost blood white now. No men folks are to be seen, only the very old men and young boys. The rest are making the supreme sacrifice for France. Another sad sight was that the women and girls, 100,000 they say, in the service of France, all dressed in men's clothes and working at the wheelbarrows and the shovels, the same as men. It made me bleed to witness it, but they don't mind it. They are doing it for France, and many of them have already given up their husbands, brothers, and sweethearts, but are still imbued with that unconquerable spirit, which surely will win the war.
Dear Mother, well, here I come again. I am all okay, and still full of fight, and I have sure had plenty of it the last 2 weeks. I would have written sooner, but we have been so busy keeping the Huns on the run that I have not had the time. We have sure been camping on the Germans' heels and have been driving them day and night, and we have had some fierce battles too, believe me. We had several casualties, but that was to be expected in a battle like that. One town near the scene of our big fight was built all of stone and brick, and artillery sure made tooth powder out of it. When we were going through the town, one shell struck so near me that it wounded the 2 men ahead of me and 2 men behind me. The shock of the explosion knocked me down, but I came through okay, and am ready to take another shot at the Hun. We gave the Boches no rest night or day. We kept pounding away at them. We took lots of prisoners and some machine guns. In one of the towns we captured, there were 20 French people that the Germans had been holding in prison, and they sure were glad to see the Americans. I was the one of the men detailed to escort them back of the lines to safety, and believe me, it was some job, as most of them were old women and men with few children, and they wanted to carry everything they had with them. Just as we started out with them, the Germans started a heavy shelling, and we had to take them through it, but we finally got to safety. And they couldn't thank us enough. They would shake our hands and call us good comrades. Sure was fierce. Their homes all shot to pieces. But we are making the Huns pay. They commenced to find out that they are not fooling with school children, as they had first supposed, for that is what they called us when we first entered the war. Whenever we get near to them with their bayonets, they stick their hands up and holler, "Kamerad!" But they might as well just keep their mouths shut. I collected some souvenirs. I couldn't take any scalps, so I took a cap for one, shoulder straps for another, and some buttons. I am sending you the shoulder strap from the sled. Well, I'd better run you off. Your son, Dave F. Smith.
Perini, dearest folks at home, you remember that I said I wanted to be a captain when I come back? I've decided that if I get back at all, I'll be lucky. After weeks in the trenches, some of us were given a few days off to rest. I had the pleasure of stopping in Paris about 48 hours. It is a wonderful place, and in spite of its bombardments by the long-range German guns and frequent air raids, there are lots of people on the streets, and business goes right along as if nothing unusual was taking place. I saw the church that was struck and several people died. Also the hotel where the Kaiser had made arrangements for his banquet on his triumphal march into Paris in 1911. They tell us he even had the menu arranged. I can easily see why Paris is the center of fashion. The women are very chic and stylish. I believe they could hang a hat on a broomstick and make it look decorative. They have the knack of trimming. I don't believe there was a man in Paris I did not tip. You tip the hotel clerk, the maid, the bellboy, the man in front of the theater, the doorman, the pro-check girl, the usher, in fact, everybody in sight. And if you don't tip them, they ask you for it. Eiffel Tower and the Ferris wheel are quite remarkable structures. But don't begin to compare with Washington's Monument and the Woolworth Building. I have enjoyed being here, where there are so many of the old sites and relics I had heard about. The weather has been anything but pleasant with its snow slush and raw wind, but still, as I amble along some famous boulevard and pinch myself to be sure that it is really the Louvre or the Eiffel Tower, I see my imagination almost runs away with the glamour of it all. You would have to chuckle if you could see me ordering a meal or doing business with a French shopkeeper. I am beginning to catch on to the names for the various edibles, which is perfectly natural. But I look like a cross between a Punch and Judy show and a runway windmill when I try to order anything. I must close with love and best wishes to you all. Roy.
I had a 3-day furlough over in France and went to Paris. Had some horse meat over there. The best I ever ate. Went up the Eiffel Tower, the highest tower in the world. It is over 980 feet high. It cost me a franc here, 20 cents an hour money. I've not said much about the French people. For fighting for patriotism, they are certainly in a class by themselves. But when it comes to handling big things in a big way, they are hopelessly behind the times and absolutely inefficient. European people have no conception of what speed means. These light French wines are effect reducers. The liquid flows so freely here that every time a person goes into a place and asks for water, or does his best to do so with very limited knowledge of French, they bring wine. Now, what is a poor fellow who doesn't drink going to do in such cases? Pity the poor teetotaler here. Since landing on this side, I've certainly seen many places and peoples, and enjoyed them all to be sure. Wish I might tell you about them, but the censorship for the good of the cause prohibits such gossipings now. The Tommies and the Frenchies we have seen certainly are good sports, and they are mighty glad to see us Yanks. Particularly in such cases with the Canadians, they regard us as one of their own family. There are no slackers in France. Each and every man uses a uniform. And let me say here that they are pretty shoddy, weary-looking men. Too like the Confederates at the end of the Civil War. But they never think of defeat or peace except in their own terms. There are many of them on the streets with one arm, one leg, or blind. The mourning worn by the women, too, is much in evidence. About one half of them wearing it. They seem cheerful through it all. They have an awful time to get the French to give us breakfast, as they only have coffee and bread in the morning, and it seems that they can't understand why we want to eat in the morning. Prices are high and luxury scarce. We found from experience that it is always best to inquire the price before making a purchase. There's a saying among the soldiers that every time a bunch of Sammys come into town, they ring all the bells so people know, and prices go up. I'm enjoying my travels very much, but I'm stronger in favor of ever as America as a place to live. Add it that way.
Jefferson Barracks, January 5th, 1918. Dear Art, it's a bad, rainy, sloppy, dark, and dismal night. And one little old stove fire in the barracks feels pretty good. There must be 150 men sleeping in here, and as everyone has been chased in on account of the rain, you can well imagine what a bedlam is going on. And I can assure you, all the racket is not conducive to good letter writing, especially when one's only equipment for writing conveniences is to sit on a bunk, writing on a board laid across one's knees. Back-breaking work.
A big card game is going on in the corner, with everyone playing more than with his mouth and his words. Another man is down on his cot, flat on his back, snoring twice as hard as heroin. A dozen or so men are crowded around a little stove, drying their clothes. Another man with an extremely loud voice is telling a tangled story of what I said, she said, I said for the benefit of the world at large. A non-man in the corner is trying to call the bunkhouse roll, and no one is paying attention to him. A dozen more men are trying to write letters. A barbershop quartet is executing a grand opera. Another man is sitting with his eyes closed, singing hymns in a doleful voice, while a man who must have been a sailor in the past is cursing because someone has stolen his blanket. Imagine all of this in a building possibly 125 feet by 40 feet, with the air blue and hazy with tobacco smoke, and over all the fitful, light and noticeable shadows cast by 3 badly hung and very weak electric lights. And you can even have the faint idea of the beginning of a rookie's life as one of Uncle Sam's high-class fighting machines. You would naturally think it'd get on one's nerves, and at first it does. After 3 weeks of it, one becomes an old-timer, and lays aside likes and dislikes, prejudices and finicky-isms, and sits back and tries to see the funny part of it all. And if one can hold himself, he finds lots of life's little tragedies, as well as humorous streaks cropping out right under one's very eyes, and finds himself interested in spite of all of this unpleasant.
Yeah, one thing I might tell you that shows the great extremes one comes in contact with. One man in our company is known all over camp as the hard-boiled guy, as he rules the roost. Nobody dares cross him, and he's whipped a dozen men, and makes it a point to let everyone understand that he is bad. But Christmas night, I happened to have some candy and eats in my bunk, and had asked everyone to help themselves. Later, when nearly everyone was gone, this bad man stepped up and asked if he could please have some candy. I said, sure, and then tried to draw him out. And he finally told me he was from Chicago, the biggest town in the world located on the Illinois Central Railroad. He was 21 years old, had never been away from home overnight, and did not know that he could get mail here, so had heard nothing from his people since his arrival here. And with tears in his eyes, he said he would have asked for part of my eats, but that it didn't seem like Christmas without candy. And that's the guy that makes everybody jump when he's around. Right then we had a little heart-to-heart talk that may help him some. Poor kid. Guess he thought war began with enlistment.
This new life seems strange to us, but we are living in strange times, and times that are not good. So we must make the sacrifice cheerfully, just as many thousands of other families and their retired ones are doing. It makes no difference how much we suffer or how much we sacrifice in doing this thing. We always fall back on the fact that we are doing the big, red-blooded, iron-nerved thing, and in that find our solace and comfort. As I must take my post in the mess hall at 5 bells tomorrow morning, and as it is getting late, I'll bid you one and all good night. Phil.
Okay, so that concludes scene 2, and you can see there was a lot of boredom and some entertainment and some action. We're ready to go to the more intense part of the letters. These are the letters written from the trenches, descriptive of battle, descriptive of some injuries that were experienced. And just a personal note, in one of these letters there will be a reference to a George Keister, who was a medic, a stretcher bearer, if you will. The reason that struck me particularly interesting is that is reference to my father's uncle, George Keister. So that was just quite a coincidence. Are we ready? Scene 3, in the trenches.
Dearest folks, I've been on the battlefield for a week now, and I've been in action most of the time. I spent Easter Sunday in a never-to-be-forgotten way. We started on the guns at 4 in the morning, and never stopped until 10:30 at night. At 8:20 we started a barrage fire, and for 2 hours we fired almost as fast as possible. All the guns on both sides were going, and it was like a veritable hell with the gun flashes lighting up the pitch darkness. It rained most of the time, and the gun pits were like lakes after a few hours. At 10:30 the firing stopped, and all was quiet. Then we knew our infantry was going over. I can't tell you any more, except to say that we achieved our ends. Here I am in a dugout, 12 feet underground. Most of our work is during the night, so we have to spend the day sleeping. We are still in active service, and I tell you it is great stuff. You ought to see our suits. A complete, airtight rubber suit for protection against mustard gas. When a fellow gets on his suit, hip boots, gas respirator, and steel helmet, he is like one of the knights of old. We always wear them, except the respirators, which we put on in case of attack. Oh, those trench rats. You have probably heard of them. Honestly, they're as big as cats. You lay down to sleep and they crawl all over you, and then when you happen to wake up and want a bite to eat, you reach out for your hardtack and the rat beats you to it. The trenches are just lousy with them. Did you remember yesterday was my anniversary of 1 year in the armed service, and still going strong? Ha! Life here is a great deal different than in the barracks. But I was ready for it, and I'm doing fine. I've just been figuring now. It's just now 7 o'clock p.m. So, it's 11 a.m. at home, and Mama is just about beginning dinner. The boys will soon be home from school, and maybe the mail has come in, and here you have a letter from France. I'd give a month's pay for all the candy I could eat. Love, Elder.
Dear Mother and Father, dear Mother, I suppose you think I'm lost, strayed, or stolen, but I'm not. I'm back from the front for a rest. I have seen lots of boys from home. We surely thought we were back in dear old Hastings, Nebraska, where we tried to see just which one of us could do the most talking. Had some time together, is putting it mildly. We saw Adam Breed, the one who owns the Tribune. He took the Adams County boys' pictures. I was too late, so I didn't get mine taken. Tell the Kaisermen back home if they had seen what I have, they would try to act like decent Americans. The Germans are using boys only 14 and 15 years old. They chain their men to the machine gun and then commit all kinds of brute tortures against women. They fight good if they're winning, but just as soon as they begin to lose, they run like a bunch of sheep. When they are cornered with a machine gun, instead of surrendering, they fight until everything is hopeless, and then holler "Kamerad" for pity. Well, believe me, they give them what they deserve. If you could only see how they destroy everything, even down to the well-kept graveyards, it makes me feel like picking up a rifle. It is the Red Cross who is doing the big work. Everybody that has been up to the front soon learns that the work they do, and I'll take off our hats to them. It is not that I have forgotten how, for we are all more anxious than ever to get back than anyone cares to guess. I often wish I could have a chance to go back on the farm. I heard the crops aren't doing very well this year. I was real sorry to hear it, but I will try to make up for it by trying to do my little bit, the very best, against the Hun. Your son, Louis.
Somewhere in France. Your mother. Haven't had any chance to write, for we have been through a fierce battle. Our company was almost wiped out. It must be that someone's prayers were answered, that I am here to write to you, for I came out of it without a scratch. What was all in? I never was so completely done out in my life. We were in it 6 days, went over the top 4 times, and were counterattacked as many times. The first morning we reached our objective all right, but the regiment on our right did not come up, and the Huns worked around us from all sides. We drove them off twice, but the third time they were too strong, so we had to fall back and had to pass through their lines to do it. We got back, but had to leave our wounded behind. I lost my pack and everything I had, but was glad to get out with that. We came at them again and drove them back, but they put up a very stiff scrap. They seemed to have machine guns everywhere. We were caught in several barrages, and I can't see how it was that anyone came out of it at all. The Germans tried to bomb us out and burn us out and sneak up on us by talking English. But they didn't have much luck, for we woke up on them every time. Our gun has a number of them to its credit. They tried all kinds of stunts on us, fellows, but it's pretty hard to get ahead of the Yanks. They tried the comrade stunt with their hands up, and when they were close enough, they'd throw a bomb at us. I don't think it did them any good. It just cost them a few lives. The dugouts here are all full of cooties. We all have them, but they have not bothered me a great deal yet. Some of the boys have to read their shirts before they can sleep. We also have another friend, a trench rat. It grows about as large as a small mule. And likes to play around and eat the clothes off our back at night. Several of the boys have holes eaten in their overcoats while they were sleeping with them on. Airships are as thick as bees on fine days like this. They sure do some wonderful stunts in the air. Wish you could see them dodging shells. Everything is going in our favor now, and I think they are putting up their last desperate fight now. The Turks and the Austrians are out of it, and I think the Kaiser soon will be. Well, I must close. Love to you.
Dear wife and all, well, how are you all? Haven't had much of a chance to write for quite a while. I've been in the hospital for a week. Got 2 different of gas. I'm getting along pretty well. I guess I'll be out for a couple of weeks and paying back for it. I've been blind for a week now. Can't see very good yet, but they get a little better every day. It seems to be good here in American Bunch. These nurses are the first American women I've seen since I left the States. It keeps them pretty busy running from one patient to another. My bed here is the first real bed I slept in since I left home, and it sure feels good. I had some ice water yesterday with some real American ice. They don't know what ice is over here. What do people think of the war right now? I know what I think of it. I sure would like to tell you this one thing if I could. You'll have to excuse this writing for I can't see well enough to see where I'm writing. But don't worry about me. We're all be alright. Lovingly, Charles.
Somewhere in France, dear parents, these French folk had to be subject to the German culture for the past 4 years. Their women have been insulted, their homes invaded and robbed, and they have been taxed and robbed of every penny. Their copper kitchen utensils have been shipped to Germany to make into shells, and their fine furniture has been taken to furnish the German trenches. They were indeed a pitiful-looking lot, but in spite of it all, they smiled and waved a cheerful greeting to the soldiers who thronged the roadside. Prisoners by the thousands are being taken every day, and many of the soldiers are past the fighting point. Almost all the prisoners are old men or young kids, and what are not are misfits of all kinds. We took a hot dinner up to our boys the other day, and while they were eating, 2 prisoners were brought in. Both were mere slips of boys. We had them a good hot dinner, and they both cried like babies. They expected harsh treatment and were met with kindness. It was too much for their excited minds. Perhaps you will be surprised to know that the stationery and the envelope are products of Germany. I took them from a German officer the other day. I am enclosing a shoulder strap I took from him as well. It is a new one and had never been worn by him and never will be worn by him. I was very much surprised to hear that Holder was taken prisoner. I knew him. He volunteered 4 days after the United States declared war. It is a worry that no one has heard from him. Will write more when I can. Love, Paul Van Sickle.
Dearest Father, haven't heard from home for a long time. I had the Red Cross lately to send you a note. Expect you haven't by this time. Had to write with my left hand. Got my right arm shot up so bad they had to take it off 2 inches above the elbow. I'm getting along fine. Get the best of care and plenty of good eats. It's the main thing with me. Expect you'll have quite a time reading this. Even at that, I bet I will have just as hard a time writing to you as you will reading it. But I hope you will be able to make it. I got wounded September 13th. Maybe a little weak at first, but since the first week, I have been up and around, and haven't missed a meal since it happened. Hope this finds everybody well and enjoying health. Love, Ward.
Dear folks, in all the hard fighting this division has had, the spirit of the boys cannot be broken. I surely was lucky to come through with only a hole through my coat and a scratch in one ear. I've thought it over several times since and wondered how I got through some of those places. The bolts were simply playing a tune all around us. At the front now, the shells whistle all day long. After a spell, the trenches where the shells seemed one to sleep. Thank God for the kind of fighting men the U.S. boys are. The biggest share of them went over the top smoking cigarettes, talking and laughing. The boys are sure giving the Dutch a big dose of medicine. The day before yesterday was a big day for the Allies. If the boys wanted to keep in touch or even in sight of the Huns, they'd have to go on their own, for they are sure taking to the tall timber. Tell Open the boys that I have lots of interesting and adventurous stories to tell them when I get home. Tell them to be good at school and to boost the Red Cross. And if anyone knocks the Salvation Army, tell them that they don't know what they're talking about. They sure do great work over here. Best regards from all of us. We're in the Army now, and it's a good steady job, and we can't wait. Your loving brother, Sergeant James Rockwell.
Dear folks, how is everybody back home, sweet home? I am pretty good. Still here in the hospital. I bet I have a whole sack full of mail scattered around France. But they will find me someday, and then I will have beaucoup. That is a French word for lots. Oh, I am getting to be quite a Frenchman. I can say about 6 words. You can see by my writing that my hand isn't very steady yet, but hope you can read this. They're not going to take the 2 other pieces of shrapnel out now, and perhaps I'll carry them the rest of my life. Many a soldier has a piece of shell or shrapnel about him somewhere. Just a Hun souvenir, you know. Don't worry about me or my hand either, for I'm coming back sometime, and I hope that time is not very far off. Do you folks remember the poem, I'm Coming Back? Those were the last words I said to you as our train left Hastings September 20 a year ago. It was the last thing I said to you when we bade each other goodbye in Manhattan. And it was the first thought that entered my mind after I was hit. I suppose you folks are looking forward to the time when I'll get back to dear old Hastings again. But I haven't any idea when that will be. Your son.
Dear brother and sister-in-law, nephews and nieces, we'll try to answer your kind and welcome letter. I am still alive and enjoying the best of health. Hope these few lines reach you the same. I would like to have answered your letter sooner, but did not have time, for I have been at the front, and everything was snappy and it was fighting from the word go until I got out. Why, when we opened our machine guns on them, they would melt away like fried ice. And it sure is great sport to see those square-headed Huns beaten. And let me tell you, we sure sent a bunch of them pushing up daisies. Why, every time we went over, the Germans saw us, they would not stop to their dead and wounded. They would let them pile up by the hundreds. And the first time I went over, all the cannons and everything was going at full blast, and I thought all the dynamite in the world was over here and gone nuts. Why, I could not hear myself think. But I did not mind a little thing like cannons roaring now. I am writing this letter on a paper from YMCA. Both officers and men recognize that the YMCA is the greatest stabilizing force in the American Army today. It is the enlisted man's club, the nearest place where you can find a warm, cheery, homey atmosphere. I think we will be in Berlin in a short time, for we sure are going that way at full speed. And say, if you see any of those pro-Germans, tell them they'd better come and see their fatherland once more if they ever want to see it again. Why, the Stars and Stripes will be flying over Germany in less than 6 months from now. Sincerely, Adam Adler.
Dearest mother, father, and sister, I think it's high time that I let you know that I'm okay. By the time you get this letter, you have been notified through Washington of my having been wounded. I was wounded on October 15th, about 11 a.m. I consider myself lucky because they were able to save my leg. It was a machine gun bullet, and it went on the outside of the left leg, passing out on the inside of the leg, breaking the bones of the leg right in two. I thought the whole German army had hit me, and my leg doubled up arming in a loop. I bled pretty hard at first, and took off my legging and took my shoe off and used a string to tie above my wound to stop the blood. Used my first aid packet and then started to work to get help. I had to crawl a quarter of a mile, and it seemed as though my leg caught on every little root. It flopped all over, and I could just feel the bone crushing together. Finally, the stretcher bearer found me, and George Keith's patients helped carry me 3 kilometers to the nearest first aid station where I got a rough rest. Then I was put in the ambulance and sent on to the hospital. My legs and splints and bandaged up pretty hard to keep my leg from crooked. It is generally rumored around here that the injured are classed in 2 classes, A and D. D is the men who won't be fit for service or go back to the front again when they go back to the States for treatment. I'm in class D, but don't count too strong on it. I don't. With love to all, I do.
Somewhere in Germany, October 20th. I will now try to write a letter from no man's land. No wonder the price of barbed wire has gone up in the States. By the look of things, no man has got it all on his land. I am feeling fine after one good night's rest, the first that I have had for about a week. Don't send any slackers over here, for it is no place for them. It looks impossible for men to stand what we went through. Talk about nerve. Not a man hesitated. Men went down half torn to pieces without a cry. Only one man called for help, and he had one leg shot off below the knee. The hardest part of all is to leave them there. Just going down with no one stops. He goes down, stretcher bearers take care of them, and it's a hero's job. War is hell for true, but strange to say, a soldier soon forgets to a certain extent, and jokes and smiles are seen and heard on all sides, right in the thick of it. And back here in the rest billets, everyone is busy getting ready for another whack of cowards, and no time for sad thoughts. Best wishes to all. Private Earl Hanson.
Dear old friends at the boarding house, did I make a mistake by not going in the officer training program and trying for a commission? I probably would have made the grade and had my name on the larger book. But the front, the ocean, where the trouble was, I wanted to get there with speed, and I did. I weighed 127, May 1, September 1, 146. Am down for the ship's football team. I was also picked the same day to collect $1.50 from each man in our bunk room for a Victrola. It is a job like killing a cow with a toothpick. Or something like that. As we sailors say, anchor for a day, spend 6 months' pay. That's the way of a sailor. You may get out that great big new bacon and put it on some bread with egg. Oh, Mother, what is the reason I can't march into your kitchen and get my midnight chow? Put on a war record, eat and be happy. A few young men shy. But they are in it, fighting for you. Hope all is well at 630 North Denver. George Rhodes, U.S. Navy.
Prisoner of War, April 13th, 1918. Dear Mom and Dad, you have no doubt heard by this time that I am doing a little DTAC service in the German Army. Yes, I was made prisoner during the offensive on the Somme and just a short distance from Verona. I had a most unfortunate experience and fell right into the German lines with nothing to defend myself. I'm quite alright, but wait very long for some kind of peace terms to be decided on so I can go back to the States again. I'm working at a hospital, taking care of our allied wounded. It isn't the most pleasant job in the world, but I'm glad to be of assistance to some of the poor fellows who were less fortunate than myself. It is getting dark now. I can hardly see to write, so I must close. I love you all. Your son, Paul Holden.
And finally, somewhere in France, December 24, 1917, your mother and all at home. It's the eve before Christmas, and I'm wondering what you are all doing at home and whether Irene and the kiddies are with you. If they are, you will no doubt have a good, lively time tomorrow. I'd sure like to see them around their Christmas tree and toys. We hope to receive some packages tomorrow, and if they contain some sweet stuff, I will be satisfied. Here's hoping that this will be the most joyous Christmas ever spent at 740 North Burlington. Then later, Christmas is over, and under the circumstances, we surely had an enjoyable day. Uncle Sam, as usual, gave us a big feed consisting of turkey, mashed potatoes, dressing, nuts, etc. Later, we sat around fireplaces, talking and thinking of home. Now, please do not worry about me, for I'm all right. I've got a real man's job, I know, but feel confident of being able to get away with it. So that's your touch of battle and the trench experience and the touch of the Navy. Our fourth and final scene is called Victory and Home to Hastings. It's a short scene, just several letters. What we notice is not so much the joy of the war ending, but the relief. And I think you'll see that as these letters are shared with you. So, over, please.
Dear family, I can't begin to describe it here, but I've sure been through the mill. I thought I'd seen several real battles before, but all the other fighting was child's play compared with that real drive. I came out okay, but with a bigger understanding of the word war. I thought for a while all hell was turned loose, and we were right in the midst of it. It was nearly as bad for us as for the doughboys. When we moved into position that first day, we lost no time in getting into action. It was all there, the hundreds of prisoners, the advancing Americans, the wounded with smashed limbs. the agonies of those dying for a drink where water was absolutely unobtainable, and the thousands of other things that go to make up a modern battle. It is an easy thing to say that you will not give a German his mercy when he says, "Mercy, comrade!" But to shoot a man with his hands up takes a hard-hearted one to do it, especially when you stop to think that he is as anxious to get home again as you are. I guess Paris lives up to its reputation for beautiful women, all right. And the whole population is crazy over the American soldier just coming from the front. When they found out where we were from and where we had been fighting, they couldn't do enough for us. France is a beautiful place, but it's the good old States for me. I suppose by this time, you would begin to think that Fritz had nabbed him. But it has been impossible to write, as we are trying to keep up with the retreating Huns. You say you don't see how the war can end by the first of the year. Well, it will. Just look what the Americans have done to Kaiser Bill's best. German prisoners tell us many things that are never printed about conditions at home. Yes, I see their end by Turkey Day. We are now camped at the foot of a high hill by a little French village. To the south is a river. We went down there yesterday and had a good old swim. The water was great as it was deep. And diving from a canal, bare, for an hour, we really enjoyed ourselves. We wound up the day eating green apples we found on the road back to camp. Swimming and eating green apples, ha! Almost forgot this is France and we're having a war. Love, your son, Albert.
The war is over, and the doughboys are the happiest men in the American Army. The past few days of burying got on my nerves very much. They talk about our brave boys and their brilliant deeds, about the splendor and grandeur of war. But it loses all its glory to one who helps bury it in lifeless, limbless bodies. The last thing we did was to bury the dead horses, which was finished yesterday. Mother, it is awful, and I thank God it's done, and the guns are still. The first night after the armistice was agreed upon, the doughboys moved out to the swampy places, to the hillsides, built fires in front of their tents and farther back for fireworks, and then sent out flares and rockets. France is not such a bad country after all, and it was worth the trip over, and the whole war to partake in the celebration when the armistice was signed. The lieutenant gave me a pass to the city, and I never have, or never expect to again witness such a sight. I suppose you have all read about it in the papers. It was a day when history was in the making, and one could hardly imagine that a people who had suffered everything of the war for over 4 years could be so young. Wine flowed as free as summer rain, and I had a great time dancing with the mademoiselles and shouting, "Vive la France! Vive l'America!" with the heroes of many battles and daughters of those who were lost. Everything is quiet now, and demobilization is in progress, and prisoners and returned soldiers are coming in daily. It will be a happy day when I can salute the Statue of Liberty, as I will never forget how I felt when I saw her the first time. Surely, there are lots of us who appreciate America and home, like we never did before.
Dear parents, well, the war is now finished, and I'm certainly glad of it. A man's life wasn't worth very much around here on this front, but I was lucky enough to escape without a wound or injured in even the slightest respect. I was at the front when the last shot was fired. Firing continued in full bloom, and at the hour of 11, all ceased. Oh, what a glorious moment it was for us. Everybody let out a few yells and all seemed to be very happy over the grand victory which we won. It may be spring before many of the Hastings boys will return to the States. New orders have us staying on a while longer. It is only fair that the AEF, American Expeditionary Force, go back in the order it came over. The Rainbow Division is part of the occupying force and on our way to Germany. We piled into a train of those wonderful French cars marked 8 horses or 40 men. We enrolled our beds and tried to get warm. We succeeded fine, but I still regret that horses are given the same accommodations as men, especially when the horses get there first. Although I'm going to be obliged to spend another Christmas in this country, it won't be under the hardships of last year. And it is my wish that you and Mother know this for your coming Christmas Day. Be joyful and enjoy a real Merry Christmas. Your loving son.
Dear folks, I suppose you're collecting the latest war developments. The people here are certainly celebrating. You would think some of them are crazy. I was down in Paris near the Eiffel Tower when our wireless was received. A sentry on post told our French guide that Germany had accepted the armistice. Monday morning at 11 o'clock, all the whistles blew. Bells thundered out. Cannons and anti-aircraft guns saluted all day and night. Also, the French people were out in the streets in mobs, waving French and American flags. Men and women would join hands and encircle some French or American and dancing around it. Paris and St. Denis were lit up beautifully. The high towers and buildings, somewhat electrically lighted, others by gas, and the grandest display of flags you ever saw. Last night, a French officer and his wife stopped me, shook hands and said, putting his hand against his heart, "Camarade." Yes, a brother to me. I'll never forget the past few days in Paris. Well, I will be back very soon. I hope at least you may not have to worry about me, as I am well, my wounds practically well. Your son and brother, Howard Reese.
They signed the armistice. Well, it may be all right, but if you could see some of the towns they have shot up over here, I have my doubts if you would be willing to sign peace with them. I would like to be back in the USA, but still, when I come back, I will feel like the Yanks are coming back, leaving a job half finished. For I tell you, you people back there cannot realize what this war was. I was in a hospital in Verdun when the armistice was signed and firing ceased. The church bells rang for the first time in 4 years. Say, the French people are sure happy. A French officer came over and patted me on my face and said, "Good friend, sweet American, the war is over." Gee, I'll be glad when I get home. I will have a great time calling on some of my soldier friends when I get out of the Army. I have met so many good fellows from all over the United States, who I think as much as though I had known them forever.
Le Havre, France, November 21st, 1918. Dear folks, I am back at last in our own lines, and it certainly seems good. I am now at a rest camp, just taking things easy and awaiting order from the base headquarters. Did you ever receive any of my letters from Germany, or had you been notified at all of my capture? I have had the greatest experience in these last long months, but I'll store that up now and tell you all about it when I come home, which I hope will be in the near future. I would have sent you a cablegram if I had the money when I first got away, and I'm sorry I haven't written sooner, but I've been so busy with interviews, etc., that I've seriously had time to do anything. How are all the folks back home? Still as well as ever, I hope. I, of course, heard no word at all from anyone, so I'm just as anxious as you are. In case I should start back across, I will send you some kind of word when I leave. I must close now to my dinner. Love to all. Paul Holder.
So, Albert Ball, the young man that we followed from enlistment to the end, he got back to Hastings. About 6 years later, he married and moved to California. Of the various letters that we read tonight, only one of those soldiers did not make it back, and that soldier was Adam Adler. So, in 1919, since most of our guys were the last ones over, they are the last ones to leave, but now they can go home. Gentlemen, thank you.
gift to our community the Hastings Tribune gave us during World War I in publishing the letters from the servicemen and from family members to give us a taste of what was happening during the war. What a gift. Beyond that, what a gift Roger Doerr is to our community. Thank you, Roger, for everything you did. We couldn't have done this evening without Roger. And to the young men who are sitting here behind us this evening, thank you. Most of you know that this is graduation weekend for Hastings High School. These young men, are you all graduating? Not you. I'm having for another year. And the other two are graduating. I can't tell you how difficult this has been to work this into their schedules and to Roger's schedule and to make this all happen this evening. So please show your gratitude one more time for these young men for Roger. To our program this evening. For those of you who are not members of the Adams County Historical Society, you have not received this, so I want to share it with you. And they are having an annual meeting on May 22nd at First United Methodist Church. Julia Foote, who is the great-granddaughter of E.C. Foote, the first letter that was read this evening, has taken it as a personal mission to share her family's history during World War I. She's presenting a program at the annual meeting of the Adams County Historical Society, and she's sharing her gifts with us this evening via her husband, who is, and I know I'm going to slaughter your name, but I apologize, where are you? Please repeat your name when you get up here. Dr. Chris Lolechko. Thank you. Thank you. You're right here. And I'd like to invite you up now. Chris is going to share. He will tell you what he's wearing. He has a few comments to share with you. And then don't leave after his few moments because I have a very important announcement that you don't want to miss.
Yeah, this is Dr. B.C. Wood's uniform, original uniform from the World War I service. One of the many uniforms that he wore. We know because we get the pictures of all of them, except this jacket. This is a very strange one. I looked closely at some of the pictures that we got from the World War I, and actually we've seen some soldiers in outstanding tops after the war while occupying Germany. It's original, the shoes are my own, the tees, these things. I had to buy a new pair. Business not survived, but these are authentic World War I fatigues. So, yeah, again, I was born in Poland, so that's why it has a strange name and strange accent. My name is Chris Lolechko. So there it is, how it really sounds. And thank you. It's going to be a pleasure to be here tonight. I thank all these young men for the readings. I listened to all the letters of excitement. Most recently, Julia and I watched a wonderful series on Netflix called 14. And that series I'd like to recommend to everyone. It shows the World War I from very many perspectives of both soldiers and civilians from all the countries involved. So I think it's written here. My wife Julia and I are eager students of history, and researching her great-grandfather's life and adventures has been an interesting and fulfilling time. Over the years, we have spent so much time in graveyards, literally across the country, seeking out her family. We have named a hobby growing from Kansas. Then we published her book, A 100-Year Adventure, a chapter of which is devoted to the World War I service of Julia's great-grandfather, Dr. Eugene Lark, better known as Gene, or EC. My own grandfather, Leopold Lechko, fought in the Great War. Actually, both of my grandfathers were born in 1892, so they were young men when the World War I began. Both of them were drafted into the Austro-Hungarian army because there was no Poland big at the time. I The war was actually a blessing to Poland because it allowed it to raise from the ashes after the Armistice Day of 1918, where the Poles threw off the yoke of the Prussians, the Austrians, and the Russians, and recreated their own country. Learning about Gene's activities and remembering my own ancestors' participation gave me a greater understanding of the war. Like Gene, I too am a doctor. I'm a pathologist, but as a physician, it is both fascinating and frightening how wars are tragic laboratories for the advancement of medical knowledge. It is appalling to see what human beings can do to each other in warfare, but for better or worse, innovations and advancement ultimately result. This project has been a particular revelation for me because of the wide availability of resources here in America for tracing Mount's ancestry. Julia and I are great fans of Southeast-like ancestry.com. I also cannot say enough about all the information and assistance provided by Elizabeth and the archives of the Historical Society. Existence and access to such places is invaluable. I wish I could research my own family as extensively as we have been able to with the Hood family. However, I'm originally from Poland, as I mentioned, and centuries of invading armies and political upheaval, just much information to be restored and hopelessly lost. Yeah, the American archives. I read actually
It's so big, it's not just Wikipedia.
I've been buying up some early 19th century family letters. It's quite incredible what kind of research there is. If you have enjoyed what I've been able to tell you about Major Gene Foote's World War I attire, I know you will enjoy Julia's upcoming presentation at the Historical Society's annual meeting on Sunday, May 22nd. It's 2:00 p.m. at the First United Methodist Church here in Hastings. Julia will speak about Dr. Gene Foote's involvement and adventures in France, where he was stationed with the American Expeditionary Forces at Evacuation Hospital number 8. She will also talk about his return to the States and the construction of the Foote Clinic. The clinic was recently added to the National Register of Historic Places last month. Thank you to Elizabeth's Clinic and the volunteers of the Adams County Historical Society for organizing this event, and thank you for the introduction.
Who is the director of the Adams County Historical Society, plans to also visit with you during the annual meeting and give a presentation on the World War I servicemen from Adams County. It will be a wonderful event, so I hope a lot of you can attend. I would just take a moment of personal privilege to thank all of you for coming. Both Cheryl and myself feel that we just have a little group of groupies here who have come faithfully to all of our meetings since December. And it's hard to believe that this started actually nearly 6 months ago with the film right here at the Lark, and it's very fitting that we end here this evening. The film Joyous Noel, talking about the Christmas truce in World War I. Many of you were here for that wonderful evening. We progressed through the months with, I just have to give you this little reminder of where you've been in the last 6 months. Following that, the author Karen Gentry spoke about her book, The Meaning of Names, which was absolutely wonderful. It was selected as the One Book, One Nebraska this year. If you haven't read it yet, I highly recommend that. We moved on then in February to the Victory Building. No other community in Nebraska has a Victory Building. We were so grateful to the Langston family and the Herms family for hosting us in the Victory Building, and the wonderful performance by Mr. Dutton and Mr. Langston that evening, as well as Dr. Harry Salyers with the music of World War I. From there, we moved to the Zone, and the children of this community developed the most fabulous art mural you've ever seen. And if you haven't seen it yet, we had it on display last month at our event. If you were unable to attend, be sure to come to Chautauqua in June to see those kids' mural. It's a work of art, and we need to find a wonderful permanent home for it. From there, we moved to the First United Methodist Church, and we had the Carillon Bells. Tom Mahalik did a wonderful performance that evening, talk to us about the significance of the bells during World War I and in relationship to this community, and pausing twice a week to hear the bells and pray for our soldiers. It was a night to remember. Laura Marble Wunderlich, who is truly the most incredibly talented individual in this community, did a fabulous review of Dead Wake, the Sinking of the Lusitania, and here we are this evening. 6 months of 6 amazing programs, and we're grateful to all of you for coming. This is the end of our pre-Chautauqua events, except for one more, and that is the Over There Cafe, the evening to meet the Chautauquans. That will be on June 1st, mark your calendars, at 5:30 in the evening until 7 at Lockland Country Club. And the actual Chautauquans are finally coming to Hastings, and we will have an opportunity to meet them. We will have an opportunity to hear a little snippet of what they're going to present to us during their time here with us in June. We have everyone from President Woodrow Wilson to W.E. Du Bois, to the humanitarian Jane Addams, to our own Nebraska politician William Jennings Bryan, and of course the author Edith Wharton, and they'll all be at Lockland Country Club on June 1st at 5:30. Over There Cafe. Don't miss it. You don't want to miss it. It'll be a wonderful evening. So thank you for coming. We just appreciate your interest in everything Chautauqua, and mark your calendar beginning June 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th at Chautauqua Park. You don't want to miss it.